Welcome to another episode of The Inquisitive Analyst. I'm your host, Marcus Uticang. It's the show where we chat about business analysis and project management and the challenges and triumphs within those fields. It's inspiring, it's informative, and of course, it's inquisitive. My guest today is a PMO coach, consultant, mentor, and speaker. He's also founder and president of the PMO Squad and podcast host of the Project Management Office Hours, co-founder of the Veteran Project Manager Mentoring Alliance, and founder and advisory council member of the PMO Leader. The PMO Global Alliance has named him one of the top 15 PMO influencers in the world in 2020. So please help me welcome to today's show, joining us all the way from Arizona, Joe Pusz. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Marcus. So happy to be here.
You're welcome. And I hope I pronounced the last name correctly.
Close enough. I'm used to that my whole life. Think Buzz, but starts with a P. So Joe
Okay.
Pusz.
Joe Pusz,
Or,
all right.
to make it easier, everybody all just calls me PMO Joe.
PMO Joe, there you go. Solves the problem. Okay. All right. Thanks, PMO Joe. So Joe, you're a managing director of the PMO Global Alliance, and you have a myriad of other accomplishments, which I've listed earlier. How did you get started in the project management field?
Yeah, like so many others, by accident. We didn't really have college degrees in project management back when I was in school. So I stumbled into it. I was working for a software company, and part of my job at that software company was to go to client sites and help them implement software to help them with their role. And if we identified a package that we offered that they didn't have, we couldn't upsell it. So we'd bring in a salesperson, they'd sell them the new package, and we'd have to implement that for them. And one day my boss said, "Hey, Joe, how's that new project going?" And I said, "What's a project? I have no idea what you're talking about." And he said, "Yeah, you're adding on that new feature at one of the client sites, and that's a project." So it was completely brand new to me.
Well,
and dug into it a little bit, found out you can actually do that for a living. And there were certifications, and you can make a career of that. And, the rest is history. I've kind of taken it from there. And what I found out really is I've been a project manager since I was born, right? I think true PMs just are wired, right, to be a project manager. So I don't have to be a PM. I just am a PM, right? It's just in my DNA. I just didn't know, professionally until that instance with my boss, and the rest is history. I love it.
Wow, that's amazing. It's good to always be in something that you enjoy, and especially something that you've realized you've been doing all your life.
Yeah.
So what gave you the incentive for the Project Management Office Hours podcast? That's an amazing podcast, which I watch too. So what gave you the incentive for that?
I started the PMO Squad in Atlanta, Georgia, and after 4 years moved out to Phoenix and didn't really have a network out in Phoenix. So randomly, I had met the station owner of Phoenix Business Radio X. Our show is a little bit different. We do it live as a radio show and then record it and release it as a podcast. And she had suggested, "Hey, what a great way to be introduced to the business community here in Phoenix is if you host your own radio show." I said, "Come on, I'm a project management person, right? I'm not a radio show personality. I don't know anything about radio, although I have a face for radio, everyone tells me." And so she said, "Why don't you just give it a try? Do a couple shows and see how it goes." My wife kind of convinced me as well. And we had a couple of local project management leaders come on. And I had called them just as a sales call, right, from the PMO Squad to try to get an introduction. And they never returned my call. But then I said, "Hey, would you like to be a guest on my radio show?" And strangely enough, they returned my call. So we used the initial part of the radio show really was to try to draw traffic in business and build the network in Phoenix. Obviously, it's evolved a bunch since then. It's now a global show. But really, I was hesitant to go from the beginning. And I'm glad I did, because it's really changed everything about our career since then.
Yeah, that's probably one of the more popular shows. The podcast PMO Project Management podcast that I've heard. Can you explain a bit about what the Veteran Project Manager Mentoring Alliance is all about? I mean, what inspired you to co-found this organization?
Yeah, very fortunate to be co-founder on that with my good buddy Eric Doc Wright. Probably about 4 years ago, I was looking for something to give back. Right, you reach a certain level of success in your life, however you want to define success. It's different for everybody, and I just felt like I was doing enough for me. But how within our industry of project management could I contribute there?
Mm.
And have a long history of veterans and military in my family, including my son, who's going to be leaving in about a month and a half to start his Navy career. And I knew I wanted to do something for the military and veterans. I wanted to do something within project management, but didn't know what. And I had reached out to Eric, who runs a company, Vets to PM, and he helps train veterans to become PMP certified and other items. And we were just chatting one day, and Eric had said, listen, the vets we work with really don't understand the corporate world, right? The civ div, he calls it, the civilian world. And they could use some mentoring from PMPs on just what that transition's like, how to be successful in the civilian world. And boom, we had the light bulb moment right then. It was on a Thursday afternoon. By Monday morning, we had a website built. And just a proof of concept, right? If we build it, if we kind of make some social media posts, will people show up? Sure enough, within a couple of weeks, 25 veterans had signed up seeking mentoring from a PMP to help them on that transition.
Wow.
So we knew we were onto something. And the reality is, here in the States, there's about 250,000 veterans who transition out of active duty service every year.
Wow.
And they're really qualified, many of them, to be project managers because of the mission concept, very equitable to a project in our space.
Yeah.
The amount of leadership training that they get. But they just need that transition, right? That little bit of help. So maybe interview skills, resume building, how to network, right? In the military, you really don't have to network. You're given your placements, you're given your orders.
Yeah.
So we then partnered up with a bunch of PMPs to be able to bring the mentoring to the veterans. We became an official 501c3 nonprofit organization. Now have a full board of directors, and Eric and I are just advisors at this point. We're there as the co-founder advisors to ensure that our mission gets accomplished. And really, it's just to help those project managers out there transition from military career and spouses, military spouses as well, from their military career into the civilian workforce.
I was going to say, if you haven't already, you should look to expanding this into Canada. Many years ago, I auditioned. Well, I shouldn't say auditioned. I tried out. I applied to be an officer in the military, and I actually got accepted. And I had a phone call. They said, pack your bags. You're going to Victoria, British Columbia. You're going to stay at the Travel Lodge in 6 weeks of training to be an officer. And I said, if you had called me 2 weeks earlier, I would have said yes. I was given a job 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And so that would have been, I was in my early 30s. And I thought, who knows what would have happened. I wanted to go into the Navy and become an officer. So
yeah, we've had interest from many countries for us to expand there. We've had people on active duty in the Middle East in advance of their transition. They were preparing, right? They were being proactive and said, well, I'm going to retire from the military in about 6 months. Can I get mentoring leading up to that? So when I make the transition, I can hit the ground running. We don't know where they were stationed. They could call in. That was top secret, so they wouldn't share their location and jeopardize any missions they were on. But it's certainly something that can be transportable and usable within countries around the world. And we'll expand at some point. We want to make sure we lock down the model and can really hone in on it here in the States, and then we'll start bringing it to other countries as well.
That'd be cool. No, I think that's awesome, because there are so many people who retire in the military at 45, 50, 55, and maybe whatever their skills, that they didn't do that transition to get into the workforce, and so they get stuck. So I think that's a great organization. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So you're a founder. Actually, first of all, let me ask, what are some of the services that PMO Squad provides? You do PMO Squad. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, I think, for me, I had that great story of how I've learned about project management, and my career kind of took off from that point where I became a PM and then a program manager, managed a PMO, all the way up to executive director of a PMO for the largest healthcare provider in the state of Georgia. And everywhere along that journey, there was a need for project management consultants, right? They would come in, they would help us maybe process, or they would be bodies that we needed to augment our staff. And when we would search, there really weren't companies that were truly dedicated project management consulting firms. There were management consulting firms who offered project management, but not really dedicated to PM. So in my last stop at Wellstar Health System, I'm running the PMO. We need to bring in some consultants. We bring in a firm, and for like the fourth or fifth straight time, there are these young, smart, intelligent kids recently out of college who don't know how to run a PMO, who don't really know how to execute on a project. And we're paying them top dollar, and I'm training them to do my role.
Yeah.
So I finally said, this is the chance to start my own company. And that was the birth of the PMO Squad. So we are 100% project management only. We don't try to do anything outside the PM space. So if it's agile, if it's waterfall, if it's PMO builds or PMO improvements, PMO staffing and resources that you might need, selections on PPM software, if it's in the PM space, we do it. We're very deep at that PM knowledge, but it's a narrow niche, right? We're not trying to be your strategy consultant. We're not trying to be your product consultant. We're not out there doing that work. We're one of a select handful, I think, of truly 100% dedicated PMO and project management consulting firms here in the States.
Nice. Very nice. Now you have a new organization called the PMO Leader. You're founder and advisory council of the PMO Leader. What's that all about? What's this organization about? How did it come about, and what is it? What kind of services does it provide?
Yeah, it's, we had this horrible pandemic that hits us, and some good that came out of that indirectly, of course, was that we got to really network and meet people from around the world. Everything went virtual, so I could be anywhere and I could go anywhere. So conferences that were international that maybe I never was able to participate in, I was a speaker at. It was fantastic. It broadened my reach.
Yeah.
But as soon as that conference ended or the webinar, you would lose touch with those individuals. So we were looking for some way to be able to not tie to a specific framework or methodology or process, because there's House of PMO, PMO Global Alliance, PMO Impact Summit. There's already enough organizations or communities out there that have their framework in place. We wanted something agnostic of all of that, where it was a home that any PM or PMO leader or agilist could go to be able to come together and keep the conversation going. And not only that, but also be able to sell and buy goods and services. Right? The other bad thing that came about these global conferences last year was everybody wanted stuff for free. Right? They wanted me to come speak for free. Hey, you're global, you're remote. Why do we have to pay a fee? You're not traveling. Well, if 25 plus years of experience, that's what you're paying for, not for the hardship of travel. So what we did is we created a community called the PMO Leader, where we focus on PMOs, project managers, agilists, and we offer up content, training, professional services with coaches and consultants, technology solutions, community discussions and forums, and it's global, right? We're serving the world, and it's a community where we can all come together and not have to worry about whose framework is better than the other. There isn't a framework. We're not pushing a framework. So the way I describe it, we had our launch at the beginning of April, and we did a live YouTube video for part of that. And the way I described it was, think that I'm a baseball fan. So in Major League Baseball, there's different teams, right? Up in Canada, they got the Blue Jays, and of course, they used to have the Expos. But we all root for our own team, right? The team that's our favorite. So if you root for the Blue Jays, or in my case, you root for the Red Sox, they happen to be playing today. If you root for those teams, you're still in the same industry, right? You're rooting for baseball. But above those two teams is the Major League Baseball League, right? So I view the PMO Leader as Major League Baseball. We're the whole project management community. So regardless if you're a P3O fan or a PMO Value Ring fan or a PMO Impact Engine, or in my case, purpose-driven PMO, those are the teams. Right? Those are the teams you root for. But where do you go beyond them? If you need a home base beyond just the framework, where do you go? And it doesn't exist in our industry. There's no place that offers all of that up. So that's the PMO Leader, right? We created this brand new, and it's available for everybody to go out and check it out.
Nice. So how do PMOs out there, or even say project managers, get involved in the PMO Leader if they want to?
Sure, it's free to sign up. There's no cost, right? You can become a member of the community. Go to thepmoleader.com, become a member, and everything is available on the site to you. So if you're looking for training classes, there's training classes, not PMO Leader training classes.
Yeah.
These are trainers who are offering up their services from around the world. If you're looking for a blog article or a book or a podcast, they're all there. You don't have to go to a podcast look, and you and I are both hosts, right?
Yeah.
We want you to come visit us, but guess what? We have a collection of podcasts there. So in one destination, you can get a podcast, you can find a book, you can read an article, you can get training. And if you need a consultant, we have coaches, consultants, and speakers listed. If you're looking for software, it's there. So that's if you're a consumer of the content we have. If you're a producer of content, such as yourself with your show, we can add that to it. If you have written a book and you want your book to be listed, we have a form on there to list your book. If you're a trainer and you want to offer your training classes up, they're there. We're not asking you to do this for free. It's actually a transactional community where you can get free content and you can offer paid content. And as the consumer producer, you choose which is right for you.
A lot of good options out there. So where do you envision, where do you see the PMO Leader, say in the next 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, I think we're going to be the destination for people in the project delivery space to go for content. Right now, if we think projectmanagement.com, right, the PMI site that they offer up, very similar in nature, right? They have a lot of articles, they have webinars, they have content out there for us to consume, but it's PMI's content. And I used to be a blog contributor. I've done webinars on there. I'm a contributor out there. I'm a member of that community, but that's one of the teams in my model, right? They're not the league.
Yeah.
I can't go up and talk about all the services PMO Squad offers on projectmanagement.com because they restrict that.
Yeah.
As a contributor in our industry, I don't understand why they restrict that. So PMO Leader embraces that. We actually encourage that, right? There is a PMO Leader in Omaha, Nebraska that needs help with an agile transformation. Where do they go? What if they need a book on that? Where do they go? And why do they have to go to 10 different places? So we've created this environment, a community, where if they have a question, you can ask it in the forum. If you have a book that you're looking for, you can see it in the library. If you want training, you can find it in the learning center. Right. And if you want a consultant to help with you, they're there in the professional services section, all of it in one destination. So I think a couple of years from now, it's going to be the go-to spot for anybody in the industry to be able to go get it. Think Amazon for project management.
Nice.
Right? Amazon exists for transactions to take place. Right. Whatever you need exists there. Well, for project management, we don't have a destination like that. So we created it. That's the PMO Leader, the Amazon of the project management world.
Nice. I like that. How can project managers function more effectively with a PMO?
Well, it's a great question. If we think about HR professionals or sales professionals, they all have a home organization that they go to where there's managers and they have experience on how to train them and how to make them be better at their task. Project management, what we find, because it is one of the roles I have, right, is managing director of the PMO Global Survey, is leadership of the PMO is lacking, right? We haven't really hit our stride as an industry with leadership. So as a project manager who may or may not work within a PMO, the first thing to do is, where is my local resource or chapter, maybe a PMI chapter or some other one of the organizations you may belong in, to be able to find peers that I can interact with and get training courses and get better, or sites like the PMO Leader and others. So I think the challenge for the PM is, do you have a good PMO leader who provides the resources to help your career get better, right? Do they have a budget to be able to provide training, right? In our survey, what we found out is about 30 to 40% of the PMO leaders don't even have a training budget.
Mhm.
So how do they help their team get the skills that they need to help grow their career if they don't have the funding they need? Well, part of why they don't have that funding is they don't understand how to be a leader within an organization and go through the political dynamics to go get a budget to help their team get the tools and training they need. So I think part of being a better PM or agilist or BA, whatever the role may be, is to ensure that you're working with an organization that has strong leadership that can really help and support you.
Nice, nice. I like how you explain these. It's almost like I could write a book about it, the way you explain it. It's very well
Don't
articulated.
let the secret out, but there's a book in progress, right?
Oh,
One's
there
coming.
is. There you go. Very nice. Actually, talking about a book and advice, as a podcast host yourself, what's your best advice for, say, a project manager or anyone out there who wants to open up a podcast for the first time? Any lessons learned?
Yeah, a ton of lessons learned, right? The first I would say is have a purpose. Know why you're doing the podcast. If you're doing a podcast to be cool, you and 5 people are going to probably enjoy your podcast, right?
Yeah.
But if once you identify the purpose, it's kind of like a PMO, right? We have the purpose-driven PMO within the PMO squad. If you know why you're doing something, then how and what follow very easily.
Hmm.
So number one, have your purpose. Number two, I would say understand the level of effort it takes to be successful,
Yeah.
right? It isn't just show up on Tuesday, turn on the microphone and start recording. There's a lot of work to have a successful podcast, right? Booking the guests,
Hmm.
meeting the guests, planning for the interview, the post-production, the marketing, handling advertisers and promotions. It's a separate business that if you don't have the time to truly commit to it, people will know, right? It'll be very obvious to everybody that's out there. So have a purpose and understand the commitment that it's going to take to be successful. I saw your show with Andy Kaufman, right?
Yeah.
And Andy's been doing this for a long time.
Oh, a long time. Yeah.
Right? The only way he's able to be successful after all of these years is because he knows what he's doing, why he's doing it, and he knows that effort it takes to do it. Right? And he had talked about on the show, kind of how his show has evolved over the years and how it's become what it is today. It's an amazing show.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Right? But that doesn't just happen because he wanted to have a podcast. It happened because he's done all the work and he understands what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, and I think also I should add to that is you start off like Andy mentioned. You just start off. Don't get it perfect in the beginning. Just start off, and you'll build over time, right? So I think that was another good piece of advice.
Yeah, I mentioned I didn't want to do my show at first, right? I had to get my
Oh,
arm twisted to do the show. So I
yeah.
did the show without purpose and without understanding of what, the effort was going to be.
Mhm.
But about the 4th show into it, I said, okay, now I get it. Now I understand how to use the show for what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And amazingly here, we're in our 4th year of doing the show, and I've had over 30 million plays and downloads of
Wow,
our episodes.
that's incredible.
It's been amazing reaction to what we've created. But we don't, like, my purpose is to help the industry, right?
Mhm.
And to become, show to the world the humanity and reality of project management.
Mhm.
So we get somebody like Amira Mahazahari, who's in Australia now, running PMO Solutions out of Australia. But she grew up in Iran
Mhm.
during the Iran-Iraq War and the Iranian Revolution and all of that, and how that impacted her life, and how now she's evolved to become a PMO leader in Australia. But it was influenced by the humanity of a war-torn country. We're not teaching on my show scope creep and
Yeah.
how to build a schedule. We're letting people know out there as project managers, you're not alone. Somebody has walked in your footsteps before you, and we're going to encourage you to be successful even in those moments where you think you've got struggles.
Mhm.
Because guess what? David Noor, who was on a recent show, also came from Iran to the
Mhm.
United States with $100 in his pocket and didn't know how to speak a word of English. And now he's about to publish his 11th book, Curve Benders. You can make it, right? There are
Yeah.
people before you blazing the trail, and sometimes you just need encouragement.
Mhm.
Listening to a guest on my show may be just what you need to help you get to where you want to go.
So this has been really, really informative. I really enjoy listening to you. Not only do you have that radio voice, that persona, but you explain things in a very nice and easy, simple way to understand, and you take your time. I find I rush through things sometimes, so that's a note I can learn from you too.
Well,
All right.
the beauty I found over all these years of experience is people don't understand what we do.
Mm,
So if we slow it down and put it into terms that they understand
yeah.
and talk their language with our mindset, for instance, PMO, project management office, program management office, portfolio management office, we get that.
Mm,
But if we really say purpose, measure, optimize, what is the purpose of your organization? Measure how well you're doing and optimize to ensure you're getting there. I'm not talking my language, I'm now talking their language, and do it in a way they understand. That's helped me, I hope, helped me be successful over the years.
Now, I think you've got the elements that you portray, I think, on your show through your voice and voice modulation and the way that you articulate yourself. I think these are sort of at the pinnacle of what Toastmasters, which is a major public speaking group in the world, does. And it's something they've taught me, and I've learned from them too. So yeah, definitely words of wisdom, no doubt. No
Thanks
doubt.
so much.
All right, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
So what if anyone in the audience wants to get in touch with you, Joe, how can they do so?
Sure. Certainly, I think the easiest way is LinkedIn, right? Everybody's out on social media. So just search for Joe Pusz, Pusz. I
Mhm.
think I'm the only one out there. And then also you can visit any of the websites that you had mentioned for the organizations I'm part of.
Fantastic.
PMO Squad, PMO Leader, VPMMA, or Project Management Office Hours. So please go out, visit those sites,
Mhm.
and connect. I'm part of the community and the project management community. I've reached that level of air quote success, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to find ways to give back to ensure as a community we can be successful as well.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Joe. And I hope you have yourself a fantastic and wonderful day in warm and hot and sunny Arizona, not like cold
Yes.
Calgary.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Marcus. I appreciate it. And welcome to the club.
Thank you.
And anything I can do along your journey, just let me know. I'm glad you're into the mix, and I'm here to help out any way I can.
Thanks. I appreciate that very much, Joe. All right. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye.